Decisions. Faxanadu on the Nintendo Entertainment System.
Hey, I know that game!
Well, what do you know? It's my co-host from PixelTunes Radio, Ed Wilson. Hey Ed, what's shaking?
Not much. Hey, did you know that it's not actually pronounced Faxanadu? It's pronounced Faxanadu. It's a portmanteau of Famicom and Xanadu. Faxanadu.
Jeez, this guy's heavy. Faxanadu is a video game that suffers from being mentioned as an afterthought to gamers. If you like Zelda 2, you'll like Faxanadu. If you enjoyed Battle of Olympus, you'll dig Faxanadu. While there are some things to compare, the game holds its own in all categories, making this one stand out amongst the side-scrolling adventure RPG pack. First, a bit of history. Before Zelda took the reins of popularity regarding dungeon-crawling games, there was a little series called Dragon Slayer. To be honest, it wasn't much to look at. However, the sequel was called Xanadu, or more accurately, Xanadu Dragon Slayer 2. This game made its way onto many Japanese computers at the time, such as the PC-88, PC-98, the FM7, and the MSX computer. The game was immensely successful in Japan, and ushered in a new age in side-scrolling, town-traversing RPG action-adventure hybrids. Oh, whoops, wrong room. Well, that was awkward. Developer Falcom were the geniuses behind the Dragon Slayer series, and while there have been numerous incarnations, it has failed to reach popularity outside of Japan, mostly because it has remained in Japan almost exclusively. Falcom's other RPG adventure series, Ys, saw greater success outside Japan, possibly due to the success of the Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest series. It's safe to say that Dragon Slayer paved the way for not only Ys' existence, but the embrace of the adventure RPG, the roguelike, and various other role-playing games the series influenced. With that said, the series has had very few incarnations brought over to North America. Dragon Slayer 4 was brought to the NES as Legacy of the Wizard, and Sorcerian, the fifth Dragon Slayer game, received an MS-DOS release over here. So where does this leave Faxanadu? Well, Faxanadu is actually a spin-off of Xanadu, so it wasn't a direct port. It was developed by Hudson Soft in 1987, but Nintendo decided to wait an entire 2 years before publishing the title in North America. Essentially, Falcom let Hudson Soft create Faxanadu, most likely hoping to broaden appeal of the RPG market in the West. This was released in the same year as Dragon Quest, which shows that Nintendo had a strong relationship with RPG developers and wanted to take chances on genres that could potentially expand beyond side-scrolling platforming, sports, and puzzle games. While Zelda was a huge success, Nintendo hoped to duplicate that kind of cash flow with expansive, big adventure titles. Hell, they even gave away copies of games like Dragon Warrior with Nintendo Power subscriptions. Well, I'm certainly glad that Nintendo decided to bring Faxanadu over to North America.
Xanadu.
You're not dead yet?
I'm not dead yet.
This could get messy, folks. Faxanadu starts off with one of the best intro music songs on the Nintendo, or at the very least, one of the most memorable. In fact, all of the music in this game is fantastic. Jun Chikuma is mainly known for her work on the Bomberman series, but here she pulls out all the stops to make a soundtrack that is tailor-made to fit each part of the experience. From the haunting ambient caves to the bouncy overworld to the somber church, every track has a place and fits perfectly in this world, though I can't help but question why the last tower in the game uses a slight octave shifted variant of the first tower. Strange. You play as an unnamed wanderer who returns to the town of Aeolus. Nope, not Hercules' partner in crime. Really, this is the photo we're going with? The Elven King summons you to see him. Luckily, you can't move on unless you see the king, so there's a lot of entering random buildings and talking to people. While I normally dislike this style of RPG where you start in a town and have to talk to a bunch of people before the action can begin, something about Faxanadu kept me engaged enough to move past this process. I don't know if it's the music or what, but the conversations are typically very short and are, in most cases, very much to the point. You go to the church and get a ring so you can get in to see the king, who informs you that the war between the elves and the dwarves continues to rage on. Previously, they lived in harmony under the world tree, but someone called the Evil One appeared out of a fallen meteorite. While I would have preferred this be shown in a cutscene, it isn't that crucial, but knowing what the NES was capable of, a quick cutscene highlighting all of this could have engaged gamers a bit more than some old king filling you in on all the details. The Evil One? What a terrible name for the main villain. I'm gonna go get a drink of water. Oh, you're a ghost now? Whatever, let's just review the game.
Why didn't they just call him Ultimate Bad Guy or Super Evil Guy number 1?
Probably for the same reason why you're saying Faxanadu wrong. Anyways, the king gives you 1,500 golds and sends you on your way after informing you that the life source of the elves, the elf fountain water, has been drying up and the townspeople are at risk of dying off. What I like about this part is that you have a lot of options for what to spend your cash on. The short dagger is obvious, but you also can buy a deluge, which is a magic fireball spell. In fact, throughout the game, there's tons of spells to buy, such as thunder, death, wrong version of death, and tilt. While tilt is the best, it is also frustrating to use at times, as it doesn't always aim for the enemy you want. You can buy keys and services such as martial arts lessons. There's even health refills through what I assume is a spa treatment. And aside from stocking up on red potions, you can also buy dried meats, which are typically cheaper than the full treatment, although the dried meats give back about half the health and magic. As you travel to different towns, you'll find different armor, shields, and weapons, all of which are essential to grab throughout the journey as each one improves your offense and defense. As you start off in the game, the money runs out pretty quick, and you'll find yourself heading into the nearby overworld to start grinding, so you can get to the next town and buy some better items such as potions and other weapons and shields. Luckily, this doesn't take that long, but it's what happens if you die that makes things frustrating. Controls in the game are pretty tight. Your character is mostly responsive to commands, and there's no lag when jumping or attacking, though there is a bit of a trick to jumping greater distances. Your character requires momentum to jump, so as you are walking you'll begin to move faster, allowing you to jump farther distances. Because you're mostly fighting in close quarters, your character can sometimes get pulled in and his energy can get drained fairly quickly, so it does require a bit of planning to learn each enemy's attack patterns. I found that attacking enemies usually has a bit of rhythm to it, and while trial and error is sometimes required, thankfully, there is a password system. When you enter into the town and step into the, not church, you speak with a, not priest, who's called a guru, and he's going to bestow not only a title in most cases, but a mantra to you. This acts like a password system and allows players to continue from where they left off. The guru assigns a rank to a player as his experience grows for killing monsters. The rank is more important when returning to the game after taking a break or dying, which you'll do a lot in this game. There are often times where you will not be prepared enough for a battle, and against a major enemy in one of the towers, you'll die and will have to go back to the previous mantra you received. Now, returning back to the Guru's location can sometimes be great, but sometimes be awful. I hit reset quite a bit in this game, but just so I could get back all the potions I had wasted, or the key I had used to get into the tower. Basically, the game created a do-over system, but the punishment is having to re-enter in this ridiculously long password. I feel like Nintendo could have spent the extra cash to fit a battery in each copy of Faxanadu to allow saving instead of passwords, but since they were most likely taking a chance on this game, they probably didn't want to risk it. Anyways, though the game's battle system can sometimes prove to be brutal, it's completely fair, and if you die, it's typically your fault in most cases. Although the password system can sometimes feel like the bane of your existence, the good news is that sometimes it works out in your favor. If you struggle to grab an extremely important item, such as a ring or a specific item requiring you to defeat a major bad guy, then end up dying, you get to keep that item. This not only saves you from having to struggle to get back to the Guru to save again, but it also refills your life and mana magic. Also, if your experience numbers are high, the gold you get might sometimes be way more than what you had in your possession, allowing you to upgrade weapons, armor, or maybe even buy more potions. The graphics here are probably some of the most unique on the NES. I get a bit of a Castlevania II Simon's Quest vibe in the sense that this game's atmosphere helps breathe life into the game's visual surroundings. The game is filled with extremely dark tones, from the sepia brown trees in the intro to the rustic castle walls. Brown is a big part of Faxanadu's color palette. There are some bright green forested areas that you'll travel through as well, but things get bleak when traversing later areas filled with muddy purples and grays. I don't want to say that the visuals can at times appear glitchy, more splotchy than anything, but I really dig it. Everything looks like it should in this giant elven tree world, and I think that the design for the backgrounds look great and really fit the mood for each location you visit. The non-playable characters usually get straight to the point, and almost everything they say is quick to read through and simple enough to understand what to do. The game also lets you know when you've used key. That's right, you're not using the key or using a key, you've used key. Also, don't try too hard? What kind of advice is that? Holy crap on a cracker, what is going on with their eyes when they talk? Does everyone in this game start having a seizure when they're speaking? Ooh, that's creepy.
Hi, my game's name is Faxanadu. What would you like?
I'm about to put my mantra in your pie hole if you don't quit it.
Dude, don't talk about passwords like that.
Your face is a password. Nice.
Why do I get the weirdest feeling of deja vu?
There are 4 overworld areas: the base of the world tree, inside of the trunk of the tree, the branches, and finally the Dwarves Mountain top entry. Each one is distinct enough, and you run into some strange enemies that all have a bit of variety. There's artistic influences from H.R. Geiger to Japanese mythos, and whatever the hell this thing is. Faxanadu is not without its problems. One of the most frustrating things about the game, as we've been talking about, is dying, as it severely impedes your process. After defeating the first boss, I'm, holding MATTOCK. Okay, well, you bring this obvious digging tool to a wall which you cannot pass. You press down and the A button to use it to unlock your path, but if you die before saving at the next guru, you cannot advance without getting the MATTOCK again to unblock the wall. It makes sense on a logical level as you return back to the previous mantra and you also use the MATTOCK, but if I didn't turn the game off, why can't I skip retrieving the MATTOCK? This sort of thing only seems to happen with triggers like turning the 3 waterfalls on or with the MATTOCK situation. Items like the rings or special items seem immune to this situation. There's a lot of back and forth with the game. Go here, grab the item, then go back the complete opposite way and drop it off there. While this can grow tiresome, the most frustrating thing is with the keys. If you leave a dungeon, you have to buy another key, otherwise you can't get back in. That's just dumb logic, as I've already used key. Oh dear, now the game's got me speaking in broken English. You really have to know how many keys you'll need, which can be tough. You could end up buying a jack key and not be able to sell it to a salesman later, so it just sits and rots in your inventory unless you travel way back to a key salesman that would actually buy it from you. I've also seen it where you go into a door with no key, but you can't leave without using one, which is rough if you accidentally went into the door. But at that point in the game, you kinda know what you're doing and you have enough experience where the mantra will help with these scenarios. After taking down the Dwarf King, who has turned into a giant dragon, you now get the Dragon Slayer, the most powerful weapon in the game, that also lets you wear the battle helmet and armor. You're finally on your way to the last tower, and man, what a confusing mess that becomes. But after eventually finding a way to the evil one, you can pretty much jump and slash him to death in a few quick hits, and well, that's the last boss fight. It was a bit depressing considering the build-up, and kinda reminded me of Simon's Quest in that sense. Faxanadu is a great game to add to your NES library, and while the amount of time you'll put into it might be a bit shocking, you'll have fun the entire time. It looks gorgeous, it sounds fantastic, and while there are some bumps in the road with the mantra system that can either help or hinder, it all wraps up into an adventure RPG package that stands out as a solid title.
Well, I'm glad you finally reviewed this game. I've always been curious about it. It seems like a pretty cool adventure. So, what are you going to review next? Maybe something for the Sharp X68000?
Pass, but I'm sure it'll come to me. Maybe in a phone call, maybe in a television, maybe in a...
Chili dog.
Say what? A chili dog? Why a chili dog? Is that some kind of Sonic the Hedgehog reference?
Oh, sorry. I'm just so hungry. Since I'm dead, I guess it doesn't matter.
Okay, fine. Let me give you a mantra. Don't try too hard, though.
Thanks, buddy! Come on, let's go record some PixelTunes Radio!
That'll be 5,000 golds.
What? I don't have any golds.
5,000 golds.
Dude, I don't have any golds.
I want 5,000 golds.
Dude, I don't even know what golds are. I don't have any golds.
That's okay. Psych, you're dead.